great to have you with us. Thank you for making time for the show. This week we focus on African integration. We have an incredible panel of eminent African elders. We get your views on the issues, and we have Africa's top 10. You're watching the Africa Leadership Dialogues. I'm Julie Gichuru. An integrated Africa has been the goal of African states since the attainment of independence over 50 years ago for many countries. It is generally agreed that integration would be politically and economically beneficial for Africa. The key challenge is to find a way to make this vision a reality. This week on Africa Leadership Dialogues, we discuss African integration. Our panel is quite incredible. It includes former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of Ghana, JerryRawlings, former President of Malawi, Bakili Muluzi, and Dr. Salim Ahmed Salim, the former Secretary General of the Organization of African Unity. Let's get their views on African integration.
A Financial Times reporter, one Tom Burgess, has described Africa as the world's poorest continent and arguably its richest. Although accounting for 2% of global GDP, it is the repository of 15% of the planet's crude oil resources, 40% of its gold, and 80% of its platinum. Beneath its soils lies a third of the mineral resources found on Earth. But this treasure trove has proved to be not a salvation, but a curse. That's what he says. Now, natural resources should make people rich, but they do not do so in Africa. Why not in Africa? Is financial colonialism a reality? Is that why we do not integrate faster? Celebrating the 50th anniversary of the OAU African Union 2 years ago, the heads of state and government adopted Agenda 2063, a vision and action plan to accelerate development and fight the poverty of the continent's people. The realization of the agenda presupposes, as its pillars, functioning regional institutions. The institutions already exist. We have among them COMESA, EAC, East African Community, ECAS, ECOWAS, IGAD, and SADC. Are they functioning? Are they dynamic integrationist institutions? Can they be made to transform into more proactive agents of integration? If yes, how? The Swahili saying goes, when minds are the same, that which is far off will come nigh. Are Africans of one mind about integration? Are they of one aspiration? Are they of one about sacrificing for the common good? Political parties are noted for their principles and ideology. How many of them espouse integration in their election manifestos and their development plans? At their regular summits, do they take time to receive reports on and review progress in integration? In the pursuit of accelerated integration, how much importance is being given to economic cooperation as a major yardstick and driver of change and development, and especially of political union? What can we learn from the history and experience of other continental organizations, such as those in Europe, the Americas, and Asia?
The question perhaps now is what is being done to change the situation and ensure that we are integrating the continent? Do you believe that leadership has its eye on this issue? And if we're not doing certain things, what would you like to see being done as well? Over to you. Thank you.
Yes, definitely indeed. We have seen emerging institutions which have, COMESA, SADC, the African Union itself, and a number of organizations, which means that, the leadership in Africa has been and is serious about, regional integration. My only concern, and I would like to say this, that maybe there are some overlappings. For instance, in the case of Malawi, we belong to COMESA, at the same time we belong to SADC, almost aiming at the same programs. These are things which I think we should be looking at, because they all cost money in terms of contribution, for instance. I think these are things which we need to be looking at. I was the first chairperson of COMESA in 1994 for 2 years, and we thought that within the 5, 6, 7 years, we're going to move somewhere in terms of regional integration. That has not happened. Of course, there are few and a number of improvements in that, but maybe we needed to see more of that integration to answer the question of the president. Thank you.
Thank you for that. JerryRawlings, I come to you now, and let's be very real and very practical. You have served in a critical capacity as an envoy on the situation in Somalia, and you see the very real challenges, even in terms of conflict in our nation states. What are your thoughts on the question then of integration, considering we have such dire situations, even in some of our states here in Africa, please?
Somalia proved to be quite a challenge and a bit of a complex situation, in the sense that it was best for the commanders-in-chief to actually take hold of the situation on the ground. And there was, unfortunately, very little I could do, because I needed to be on the ground. And to be on the ground virtually meant marshalling a few too many of the tanks for my personal protection, which I didn't think was good enough. They had a job to do. But nonetheless, I must commend the will of the regional powers in trying to deal with the scourge of terrorism. We are quite vulnerable, because of the cross and the mix of the diversity on this continent. And people can easily take advantage of it. The development is taking place. We're very grateful for it. We're very happy to see this happening. But the same thing was happening in Tunis. It was happening in Egypt. But so why the Arab Spring? Because when you have this kind of disparity in terms of, the development, the comforts of development, not spreading, around appropriately, it begins to create a problem, stress and tension for the people.
Ahmed Salim, I come to you now, and please give us an overview. You, of course, were chair, played a critical role in the Organization of African Unity. Do you see progress in terms of integration, and where do you see future challenges that we must deal with?
The question of integration has preoccupied our continent and our leaders for some time now. When you go back to history, from the time of the OAU, even in the time of the OAU, people were still talking about cooperation, integration, and so on. And this has been a recurring theme at every session of the Organization of African Unity, and now the African Union. People talk about the need for integration, the pursuit of objectives which will contribute to integration, and so on. We've had some success. Definitely the situation today is not what it used to be. Definitely, even if you take in this East African context, when you look at the East African community, for example, and you go back to history, when the community had collapsed, nobody would have thought that we would reach the way we have reached right now. So things are moving. But there are serious problems. For example, we talk about integration, but integration is not about exchange of goods and commodities only. Integration is about people. to what extent are the people's interests taken into account? Africans still find it extremely difficult to travel from one African country to another. And I think almost all our countries are guilty of that. Somebody comes from West Africa, maybe comes from Senegal or Nigeria, and so on. Well, you look him with some, some concern, but a Muzungu, and I'm sorry to say this, a European or an American coming to our country, very easy, no problems at all. A Nigerian is a problem. A Tanzanian going to Nigeria is a problem. A Kenyan, so really, we have the whole question. The question of mindset. We have to really take the question of integration seriously, and we have to understand that we are talking about our people.
Obasanjo, I come to you with this question, and with your foundation, you're doing a lot of work in many different areas. You are also speaking to young people. I've seen you in a number of forums, engaging quite vibrantly. Where do you think we are, and where should we be going?
We've been talking about integration, cooperation, coming together. In fact, OAU is Organization of African Unity. So our leaders were mindful of unity of purpose, unity of action, and hopefully eventually leading to unity in political and economic action and life. And in some areas where we have shown leadership, and I will want to underline leadership, we have succeeded. We succeeded in forming OAU itself. It wasn't easy. It was divided. We had Monrovia group and Casablanca group. Eventually, we came together and we had an organization. We succeeded in fighting colonialism and eliminating colonialism and all the vestiges of colonialism from Africa. There was leadership. And when I talk about leadership, I'm talking about leadership at the national level, but also at the continental level. Now, moving 54 countries in one direction at a go is asking for the impossible. And we must realize that. Whenever we have succeeded, we have got a core of leaders. We had that core here in this part of the world for us to eliminate colonialism and all the vestiges of it, including defeating apartheid. We succeeded in establishing NEPAD. It wasn't easy, but again, we had a core of leaders who decided that this is the way we will go, this is the way to go, and we started. Integration is about movement. Now, we complain about a number of things, trading among ourselves, intra-African trade and all that. How can you trade when you cannot even move? How can you trade when you don't have any coastal shipping that is viable? How can you? The other day I said, look, why can't we have a viable and thriving coastal shipping from Dhaka to Mombasa along the coast? Why can't we? If we are able to do that, we will increase trading within Africa by at least 10%. By at least 10%. So there are practical things that we can do and that we must do, and if we do them, we will make progress.
Stay with the Africa Leadership Dialogues.
My name is Techua Menu, and I work for the Economic Commission for Africa in Addis Ababa. I want to start with the comment that former President Nkapa made in his introduction about where regional integration is in election manifestos. And I want to relate that to some of the points that have been made. We talk about, for me, this issue about where regional integration is in election manifestos relates very much to the issue of planning. We're talking about regional integration, but when we plan in our countries, we plan on a national scale. So even though people are moving, we never plan for them. And this is a source of hostility. If you look at West Africa, when former President Rawlings was bantering with President Obasanjo about Nigerians in Ghana and vice versa, we have a lot of movement in West Africa. These other West Africans are helping to build our economies, but we still plan on a national scale. So you plan a hospital in Ghana, and you think of it's only Ghanaian mothers who are delivering in the hospital. When you know that every day people are crossing from Togo into Ghana. So this failure, we talk regional integration, but we plan nationally. We don't plan on a regional scale. And this is a source of hostility among our populations.
My name is Manzi Regasira. I'm with NMB. My question is, do the former heads of state feel that there really is a pan-African identity, some sort of common identity for Africa, for East Africa or West Africa, or even within the regions?
Just a brief comment to say I fully agree with the excellencies. I think the comment about leadership is critical, and ethical leadership on integration. The African Liberation Committee took leadership from Nigeria, from Tanzania, from leaders who are committed to do it. And they did not poll, they did not go out to ask for a referendum, because this was the right thing to do. It took leadership, it's taken leadership in East Africa for goods to move freely in East Africa. Presidents came together and they decided to remove roadblocks, cut down the number of days it takes from goods to move from Mombasa to Kigali from 21 to 5.
Currently, it takes 5 days.
Yes, from former 21. Now, we had been struggling with this for many years, and countries were saying they needed to change their laws in order to remove roadblocks. But they had not, when they established them, they did not need to go to parliament. They simply put the roadblocks there. But when you said remove them, they said, no, we need to change our laws and regulations. It took leadership to come and do this. The free movement of people is the same thing. For those countries that have removed visa requirements, Rwanda, Mauritius, and others, it's just taken leaders to come up and say this is the right thing to do, and we're going to do it. And therefore, I'm extremely glad that the presidents are taking this up. It has to be the leaders who will do this, and the people will follow them.
The question that has been posed, do you feel that there is a pan-African identity? And this is a controversial one. I want each of you, please, I'll start with Obasanjo here because I can see he's ready and raring to go. Do we have a unifying identity as Africans?
Of course we do.
Some people say we don't.
We have common underdevelopment. Now that's something. Now, if that is not a commonality, then I wonder what is that should really ginger us, that should inspire us, that should make us go. No, we do. But let me come up with this issue of leadership. Leadership without sacrifice is no leadership. And in all the places or the areas where we have talked about success, some sacrifice have been made. When you talk about eradication of colonialism, elimination of apartheid, this country paid a price. And if this country and others like this country that paid the price have not paid the price, maybe we will not be where we are today. And that is one thing that we must all bear in mind. Now, national planning rather than regional planning. Money is one problem. We in West Africa, after our free movement of goods and services, decided to have certain infrastructure put together. One of them was power. And we have what we call power pool. Another one was gas. We have common gas pipeline. But the story of the gas line is this. The gas line project has been on the table for years. And when successor to President Rawlings took over, he found this and came to me and said, look, this is a good idea. And I said, it's a good idea. And we needed to have equity. Ghana's equity was $80 million. And John Kufuor said, look, it's a good idea, but I have no money. Well, which is true. I said, how much money do you need? He said, $80 million. I said, talk to my Minister of Finance. And my Minister of Finance said, no, we can't do it. I said, why can't we do it? He said, there's no collateral. I said, collateral for Ghana? Now, the existence of Ghana is enough collateral. So give the money. Well, of course, Ngozi was a stingy person. I think she gave either 40 or 50 million. He didn't give all the money. And that was why we were able to have the pipeline going from Nigeria to Republic of Benin, to Togo, to Ghana.
Salim, I come to you. I come to you with the comments that you heard raised earlier. Very interesting comments, all of them. Please share your thoughts on them. Perhaps we'll start with that all-important question. Is there such a thing as, a common African identity?
Frankly, there is a Pan-African identity. And throughout the struggle for independence, from the time when African leaders were not free at that time, they were talking about a Pan-African thing. So the Pan-African identity is there. But what we need to do is to enhance it, to make it more practical, to make it more meaningful. It's not simply that we are Africans. It is what can we do for ourselves, sense of independence, sense of that. Now, I want to pay tribute to President Obasanjo, and through him, to the Nigerians. There's one thing about Nigeria which I really admire, is their total commitment to Africa. Total commitment. I have been Secretary General of the OEU for 12 years. I visited every single African country. And I've seen no country which is more committed to the struggle in Africa than Nigeria. You cannot talk in terms of dignity of our people. We should make decisions and so on. When it comes to paying, you don't pay anything. And so, for example, the operational budget of the African Union today, about 80% or more is coming from Europe and other places. And then how can you sit down and talk and say, we don't want you to do this and the other? So in a sense, there is a need also for African countries to make the necessary contribution. And it's not even a sacrifice. Because when you look at this situation, most of the countries who don't pay their contributions are countries that can afford it. But somehow or the other, they find one excuse or the other. So really, there is a need for that. So we must choose every possible means to coordinate, to mobilize our people. And the importance of civil society cannot be overemphasized. Because through civil society, then you get the governments also involved. Some of our governments have to be pressurized to do something. And the best pressure must come from our people ourselves.
Thank you for that. I come to you, President Rawlings. The importance of leadership has been emphasized. The need perhaps to think beyond regional planning, especially on our borders where we know how our people live. They are so integrated because indeed our borders are created by our colonial masters. So, your thoughts on all those comments and also on the question of an African identity.
Whether we like it or not, the international perception sees us as one identifiable group anyway. And if we don't realize it back at home, when we're outside, that identity dawns on us and we relate. As far as being an African is concerned, there's the occasional unease. But I don't think it overrides. It does not override the general comfort of being in the company of another African. Yeah. And I think that's what we need to take advantage of. It's pretty much like the different ethnic situations we have in our own individual countries. If I may just comment on the issue that was being talked about earlier, to do with our relationship with the colonial powers in terms of security. If we could rely a lot more on our institutions, on our people for our security, quite frankly, I think we would make a lot more progress. I'm saying this because a little too often, some of us have become a little too over-reliant on the colonial masters for our security, as a result of which they call the shots. It's most unfortunate, but...
Are we changing things over the past few years? Have you noticed a movement in a different direction?
I would like to think so. I would like to think so, Madam. But I'm saying that there is so much... When we have this kind of relationship, trust with our people, and we do not end up being intimidated. We do not go and constitute tribal armies or forces for our personal protection. We foist a sense of purpose in the people, the sense of unity, the creative energy in the people.
The topic is moving towards an integrated Africa. What to be done? The issue I would like to bring here, and this comes in the issue of leadership, is the private sector development. How we empower our people to do business. It's very important. If indeed there must be this improvement in regional integration, the private sector must be brought in. I do remember during my days, the late President Kamuzu Banda used to tell us to say, don't empower the people because they will rise against you. In other words, the issue of leadership is very crucial, where a leader must see to say that government cannot do business. It is the private sector which can develop, and actually the issue of the regional integration. So I wanted to emphasize the issue of the private sector development, giving opportunities to business people to do business. These are the people going to create employment. They will bring foreign exchange in our countries and our regions. They will build infrastructure which we want. I talked to you about the issue of transport. It is not government which is going to do that, it's the private sector. So I wanted to mention this as a very important point.
Stay with the Africa Leadership Dialogues.
What a passionate session. Now, time to hear your views.
This week we asked you, what is the role of citizenry in the integration process? Gidoku James Kinyanjui says, when boundaries are opened up and movement eased, the citizenry need to seize available opportunities in terms of trade, investment, resource sharing, and social development.
I think citizenry can help in the integration process by being open-minded to other different cultures and probably provide different ideas and embrace the spirit of togetherness.
To join our conversation, go to our G+ page, Africa Leadership Dialogues, on Facebook, Africa Leadership Dialogues, on Twitter, @AfricaLD, and on WhatsApp, send your video comments to +254 715 816 033.
And now to Africa's top 10.
This week on Africa's Top 10, we feature countries with efficient custom procedures. The aim of the research was to highlight how efficient custom procedures are relating to the entry and exit of merchandise. This is according to the World Economic Forum. Starting us off at number 10 is Seychelles with an index of 3.8 and is positioned at number 79 globally. Coming in at number 9 is Namibia. It is ranked 64th globally with an index of 4.18. At number 8 is South Africa with an index of 4.15 and is positioned at number 62 globally. Botswana takes the 7th spot with an index of 4.26. It is ranked 60th globally. Slotted in at number 6 is Zambia with an index of 4.23. It is ranked 59th globally. Positioned at number 5 is Morocco. It is ranked 57th globally with an index of 4.3. Taking the number 4 spot is Senegal with an index of 4.3. It is ranked 56th globally. The Gambia comes in at number 3 with an index of 4.6 and is ranked globally at position 42. Coming in at number 2 is Mauritius with an index of 4.7. It is ranked 38th globally. And at number 1 this week is Rwanda. It is ranked 16th globally with an index of 5.2. And that's Africa's Top 10 this week.
We close often with a proverb, but this week we're going to get a quote from a man who really started the dream of a united, liberated, integrated Africa. His name is Kwame Nkrumah. The late Nkrumah said, "I am not African because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me." What a powerful quote. Blessings to you and blessings to Africa.